Yeah, well, we had a press conference. We had Williams isn't here, so we don't have a lot of actions going on right now. What we did,
Okay, everyone starts small, you know.
Well, we've been we had a few arrests. So my
Really?
husband, on this restricted area where there are known native artifacts, 2 years ago when they were doing the drilling to test to see if that was a good place to cross the Conestoga, we had 8 people arrested who stopped and shut down the equipment just to say we're not okay with you doing this, and they were arrested for trespassing by PP&L. PP&L owned the property at that time, and PP&L wanted to drop the charges, but if everyone agreed to not be on their property again and do any kind of restrictions on what they were trying to do, and we said we can't agree to that. So the 8 individuals were found guilty, including a chief, Indian chief, who was arrested with them. We did drumming, we were prayerful, it was all nonviolent. I should say, everything that we do here, we've decided non-violence against people and against equipment. We don't plan on doing any damage to equipment or anything like that. We are just using our voices and our bodies to make a statement of resistance. And anyone coming into the camp has to agree to no weapons, no alcohol, no illegal drugs. That's just a basis for the foundation of what we do. We accept all people, all religions. We have Native American and Jewish and Christian here. I think we're going to be having an Easter sunrise service here for anybody who's interested. And then behind you, if you want to turn around, is the sweat lodge that was built up by a Native American, local Native American. His name's Reed, and he came and just built this last weekend, and they had a sweat. And he said he'll come and do sweats for anybody who wants to. And the purpose of the sweat, usually there's something you sweat for, it will constantly be for the protection of this land from this pipeline. So we have just a few tents here of people who come and go. The other thing that's different, I think, about our movement is we're all residents. We have homes and we have jobs and we have families that we have to maintain. So we've all been working full-time on top of doing this resistance work, this movement work. And so we take turns staying nights here right now, to make sure people are here every night. And then on weekends, we're all here together like one big happy family, which is kind of cool, the community that we've built. And then we have, we'll turn over here to the right. We've had a couple of Native Americans who have come through and done some prayers of protection of sacred space. And there's a circle here that one of the local Native Americans came and created this space and circle where this is going to be set aside as sacred space. We're going to be tenting. People cannot come here to pray. If there are any artifacts found, because all of this where we're standing was part of an Indian village, and so they've been farming it forever, but there are artifacts that can be found pretty easily, and if anybody finds them while they're here, it's not for them to keep. We're going to bring them and put them in this sacred space. Over here is our fire circle. We usually have a campfire every night. Sometimes we do singing or drumming, and sometimes we just sit around and talk. A lot of us would like to have a little shot of whiskey while we're sitting here, but we've agreed that's not going to happen while we're here. So fire circle, people have been donating firewood, which has been a great gift. And then we got this military tent for meetings when it's raining and we need to have meetings. It's just a big tent for our meeting space. So I feel like the one advantage that we have in the timeline that Williams has given us is that we've had time and space to set up our structure, how leadership happens, who does what.
And for those who are unfamiliar, because they might just be coming in or whatever, Williams is the parent company?
Yes, Williams Partners is the name of the company who owns the natural gas industry that's proposing to put the pipeline through here. And their timeline is that they will probably start cutting trees. We're expecting next week because they have asked for an early permission from early approval from FERC so they can cut trees before the deadline.
And
in
I
April.
hear machinery up on the ridge, but I'm guessing that's farm equipment?
That is, they're actually building a factory farm over there for animals. Lancaster County has the most, I think, concentrated in Pennsylvania factory farms for chickens, pigs, and I know I said, what are we doing? And then the river is right below it.
And
so, yeah,
which is,
so it's just at the bottom of this hills where the Conestoga River is, which flows into the Susquehanna River. So this is all about protecting the Susquehanna River watershed.
And where were they talking about cutting trees? Is that,
Yeah, the
can we
tree
see that
cutting
from
for
here?
the whole line in Pennsylvania, they'll probably start March 17th because they are hoping to have all of the trees cut by March 30th. I don't know if you know about limitations of cutting trees because of migratory birds and bats. They have to be done by April 1st. And so that's why one of the reasons they asked for early permission from FERC for approval for this project so they could get the trees cut in time.
And so is it possible to see from here the point at which they're talking about putting the pipeline across?
Yeah, so it would start, yeah, it's hard to see, but behind the barn is where they would start digging under the ground. And it would go under the ground on the other side of these trees, and it would cross over under the Conestoga River, just down over that hill, and come up in that green area over there on the other side of the river is where they would come up out of the drilling.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, the rain's coming down pretty hard
It is
now.
starting, isn't
Maybe
it?
we should head back.
That's
but,
great. We can go back. Come on, Ginger. I hadn't noticed. I don't mind.
Oh, I don't
And this
mind
is pouring.
either, but
Oh, there's the. I haven't been inside the art tent. They just put that up.
should we walk over there quick?
Yeah, sure. See what's over there.
Stay dry for a second.
Yeah, that's good.
And you guys have been here for how long now?
We just started the encampment a couple of weeks ago. Yeah, like 3 weeks ago we did dedication and started putting this words up on the barn. And you ought to get a good picture at the end of the barn of our logo. Have you seen that yet?
On the side?
Yeah, well this is the side. So on the end, on the upper end is a huge
When here comes
image.
an Amish carriage
Oh yeah,
off in the distance.
right. You'll
See if I
that
can
a lot
zoom
here.
in on that
You should have been here on
because I'm a
Sunday.
tourist.
Well, the youth had, there were about 80 Amish youth who were up on the other side playing volleyball. The other thing I should say is the township came out and put condemnation letters on the barn saying that
I had
it's
heard about that.
condemned.
What is what's
Yeah,
going on with
what's
that?
the status with that? Yeah, so zoning. So not the township supervisors, but the zoning board. So the township we live in, the zoning hearing director died, and instead of replacing him at this point, they're subcontracting out from another township. And that township has just been challenging everything we do, and even illegally, I think. We
Well,
talked with
that's
lawyers.
how they do it. I
Well,
mean, if I learned anything
Yeah.
from Standing Rock, it's that they will jam up the works with all
Yes.
the paperwork they can. Doesn't matter if it's illegal, immoral.
Right.
It's just whatever
Whatever they
suits their
can do.
needs.
That's right. So we, you can step under if you want to get out of the rain. I'm waterproof. So where it stands right now, there's a township meeting tonight, and we're going to go out. We're going to talk to the supervisors and let them know. Look, we've talked to our lawyers who said this is a First Amendment's right case, that the landowner has the right to have people on his property if he wants to, where we don't exceed the 350 limit of numbers that the zoning says. And the sign they put on the building was that it was unsafe for people to be in, an unsafe structure. And we're like, how do
So
you say?
we're talking about the barn here.
Yeah,
that
the
says
word
welcome, to the stand.
Yeah, that there were signs all over that saying it was an unsafe structure. And my husband,
You want to walk up?
sure, my husband went and talked to them about what they were talking about. And the guy said, well, it's not being used for agricultural purposes. And my husband was like, okay, so no landowner can use their barn for anything other than agricultural purposes. Is that what you're saying? So should I start talking to all our neighbors and find out how many people use barns? Actually, the Amishmen across the street had 80 youth at their meeting this Sunday, and they were in the barn playing volleyball. Like, is that an agricultural purpose? And the guy was like, no, that's religious. Okay, so if we make this religious, it's okay. And he's like, well, this isn't religious. And so my husband then...
But volleyball is religious?
Well, exactly. So then my husband said, okay, so what if the landowner wants to have a family reunion? And the guy was like, well, then they're blood relatives, and that's okay. And my husband was like, okay, how many have to be blood relatives? What if half of them are blood relatives and half of them aren't? Like, where's the point? And the guy was like, you're just being ridiculous. And my husband was like, no, you're being ridiculous. Like, obviously you have no case here. You're just trying to thwart what we're doing and bully
Right.
us. And we've talked to lawyers who are like all about, look, they lost the case. This is absolutely civil rights, First Amendment. They are in violation. We are not. And if we have to go to court, we will. So there's a Conestoga Township meeting tonight.
And what's really sad about that is that you have to bring up examples of the other people that are playing volleyball,
Yes,
and in a
exactly.
sense you're calling them out, which feels horrible.
Well, and
That-
it
uh,
makes
be-
you
be-
wonder,
be-
why are they doing this? Like, what are they...
Well, we know. I mean, it's a rhetorical question
Right,
in many
exactly.
senses, but
Right. But
there's a meeting tonight.
just to
Right.
kind of stoke a township meeting that we'll go to in droves. We'll all show up and be like, look, do you want another case on your hands? Because you're violating civil rights right now. It's a First Amendment issue, and you're in the wrong, and you will lose. And we'll go there if we want to, or you can just renege, and we'll see what happens. But
It's sad that they play into these tactics each and every single time.
and they often get away with it
Oh,
because
yeah.
if people don't have the resources or the time or the energy to fight back. This is Josh Yoder. He is our artist, and I'm going to show you in a minute the logo that
Josh
he
okay
created.
with being on the live stream?
Josh is
Okay, there we go.
great. Do you want to say anything about the work that you're doing?
I don't know that there's much to say. Is there anything you're interested in particularly?
I was just, checking out the lay of the land, so maybe just let me know what you're doing. And
Sure. I mean, I'm hammering in a sign. Not very excited.
I met you,
guess.
your role here,
Yeah.
and you played a huge role.
Well, part of
Yeah.
what is really exciting about being here to me, besides having grown up here and seeing this happen, is that I think a lot of people walk in here and kind of have this sense of a Lancaster identity just by being on the farm. And some of that comes through with the visuals. And the thing that's maybe a little more subtle to realize is that's not necessarily an identity that a lot of the people around here could just see in themselves naturally. It's not necessarily an ingrained thing. So part of that is that beyond just fighting the camp, beyond just fighting the pipeline, and like a political sense, a lot of what this camp is doing is it's really reaffirming a community identity that, as someone who was born here, is really powerful to start seeing manifest. And I think that's part of the politics of it, that people tend to, that tends to be more subtle.
So here's a question I've been asking a little bit. It's a bit of devil's advocate. What's so bad about pipelines?
Well, here I think it's a little bit.
Well, I'm just saying because I was out at
Oh, yeah.
Standing Rock and all the locals are like, what are you damn hippies doing out here?
I think one of the things that is a little more egregious with this one, and I could go off around about why pipelines themselves are an issue, but like there's a part of this commitment that we have to nonviolence, to being part of the community. We're not actually going to end up on people's land who have signed to let the pipeline go through. We're not. I don't believe that we're going to end up locking down to equipment from the pipeline. We're only walking onto land of people who are refusing to let the pipeline through and being forced to do it anyway through eminent domain, which gives a sense of the scale of injustice there. I mean, this is people who want their farm, they want nothing to do with anything else, and Williams is still able to walk in and build a line through.
Williams is the parent company.
Oh yeah, Williams is, yeah, exactly. So here you're dealing with more than just what's so bad about pipelines. This is what's so bad about the ability to build these big fossil fuel projects right through people's way of lives, and they have no say in that, even on their own personal property.
And do you know how many properties have been, or landowners have been affected?
I'm not really the person to ask.
Okay.
I came back specifically to help with the visuals end of it, so I don't know that I have all of those stats, but I know it's a lot given the amount of people who are showing up and who are angry about it. I mean, one of the examples actually, the road you were walking up earlier, that's the right-of-way into building the drill pad up where the stand structure is. They're going to have to regrade this. They're going to have to expand it out. All of that.
So the stand meaning the thing on the legs up there.
Yeah,
zoom
exactly.
in.
So, and that's that's a rather quaint Amish farm right up in there, and they're about to drive heavy machinery into there. One of the things that I think people don't realize with these pipelines, and it gets into part of what's so bad about pipelines, when your land is taken away with right away and eminent domain, they're not actually taking your land from you. They're asserting the right to come in and build the pipeline through your land, and then you still own that property. You still have to pay taxes on that property, but there's a pipeline through it. You can't build anything in that area. You can hunt, you can farm on top of it, but that's about it. And
You can drink from the poisoned water.
you can, right, so if there's a spill, all of that, that's still your property. It's not like they took, it's not like